10 years? That's a whole decade! The fifth generation of Pokemon holds a special place in many fans' hearts, and is considered by most to be the franchise at its best. It's the first generation of Pokemon to be loved because it's actually good, and not because of nostalgia blinding you from the fact that the game is hot trash. Gen 5 was kicked off with Pokemon Black and Pokemon White, releasing in September 2010 in the East and March 2011 in the West. With Shinichi Masuda at the helm of the games like always, fans were excited to see what else Pokemon on the DS had to offer. I remember being excited for this game as a 7-year-old, since this was the first time I followed a Pokemon hype cycle through the internet and also the Pokeworld magazine. Before I even picked them up, there was something about these games that really drew me in. I couldn't put my finger on why, but I was so excited. March 2011 rolled round, I got my hands on the game. I popped that baby in and my mum decided that video games were rotting my brain and shut me down. I never made it past the 5th gym leader, as I was forced to pass my days beating my high score in Big Brain Academy. But fear not, for I broke through the shackles of my parents and I'm here to finish the game and share my thoughts on it with you. So finally, without further ado, let's talk about Pokemon Black and White. If you pick up Pokemon Black or White, I know that the first thing that'll cross your mind will be, where the hell is Wurmple? The most famous thing about Gen 5 is the fact that all Pokemon in the game are new, not a single old Pokemon in sight. I can't really say why they decided to do this, but Game Freak made 156 entire new Pokemon for this game, meaning that the only Pokemon you see will be brand new. Granted, a few of these are just new versions of Zubat and Rattata, but the effort really gives Black and White its own identity compared to other games. I'll list some of my favourite Pokemon added for fun. Samurott, Excadrill, Braviary, Reuniclus, or however you pronounce it, Zebstrika, and the two legendaries Zekrom and Reshiram, with them actually being my favourite mascot duo. The best part of all the fresh designs is the sprites. I love these sprites. It's great how each sprite is designed to show a Pokemon's character, like how Samurott has his head held high to show his confidence, and his legs spread out to mimic the samurai sword fighting stance. The sprites of Gen 5 really put the emotionless models of the 3D games to shame, and to be honest, it's a little saddening. Game Freak did not need to go as far as they did by limiting the region to only new Pokemon, nor did they need to put that much effort into the sprites and their animations. But by doing so, they really elevated this game to new heights. I should probably get the gameplay out of the way. It's Pokemon, what do you think it is? You use your Pokemon to fight other Pokemon in turn-based battles. There's not much to say in this department. Black and White did add 2 new battle modes with triple battles and rotation battles. Believe it or not, you fight with 3 Pokemon out at once in triple battles, and that's about the extent of it. It's just double battles, but with less strategic options since half your team is already on the field. Rotation battles has 2 other Pokemon stand behind your main Pokemon, and you can rotate them to the front whilst also giving a command. This basically means you can just switch in a Pokemon and use a move in the same turn. So in terms of battle mode, no one cares! Outside of battles, you traverse the Unova region and use your Pokemon's HM moves in order to overcome certain obstacles. It's just the usual Pokemon stuff that I enjoy. One thing I will say is, going back to random encounters after playing Sword and Shield is super jarring. I was able to tolerate them for the first few hours of every play session, but damn, they make it really hard to play for long periods of time as your frustration grows. In terms of difficulty, the game's balancing is pretty solid. The wild Pokemon are easily beatable, but just to the right extent. Each trainer presents a fair challenge with the odd difficult one thrown in there to make you switch up your strategy. The main problem with difficulty would be the gym leaders. They're just a bit too easy. Too often did I end up one-shotting their primary Pokemon, and even though their last Pokemon would be more of a challenge, I could just throw my entire team at it to win. I miss the struggle gym leaders would give me in previous generations, and I'm afraid Generation 5 is actually the beginning of the decline into stupidly easy gym leaders in generations to come. Black and White are set in the Unova region, which is based off of the USA. This makes it the first Pokemon region to not be based on an area in Japan. Of all the places they could have picked, the USA was the best pick. The USA is so vast, meaning it contains many different kinds of mini biomes, providing inspiration for a ton of different areas. One second you can be in the bustling Castelia City, inspired by New York, and the next you can be in the Arizona-based Desert Resort, exploring underground ruins. Every area is uniquely vibrant, and transitioning between them is made a smooth process by the tranquil routes. My favourite locations would be the calming Accumula town, the busy Castelia City, and Nimbasa City with its high energy. On the other hand, the region is completely linear. You have no choice over what order you do things in. You simply travel from point A to point B. A lot of Pokemon fans complain about this, but it doesn't get to me since traveling through the routes is still fun, even if they're in a locked order. Either way, if you expected an open environment to explore, Pokemon Black and White are not the games to come for that kind of experience. The highlight of Black and White is definitely the story. From Gen 3 onwards, the plot of Pokemon games were pretty much in line with that of a typical shonen anime, with the stakes increasing each game. Overall, these stories were entertaining, but the actual threat always felt extremely disconnected from the protagonist. Whilst Black and White tones down the stakes from Diamond and Pearl's plot based on Universal Reboot, it spends more time focusing on relationships to make the protagonist feel like they belong in this story. Of course, it has the base narrative of every Pokemon game. Trainer gets Pokemon, leaves home, battles all the gym leaders, and becomes the champion. For this journey, you face the threat of Team Plasma, an organization dedicated to liberating Pokemon from their trainers. Despite the huge organization that is Team Plasma, the conflict focuses on two characters, the protagonist and N. Before I get to that, I'll just get some other characters out of the way quickly so I can convey the narrative as clearly as possible. You have your rivals, Bianca and Sharon. Bianca starts off her journey unsure of what kind of trainer she wants to be, and eventually realizes battling isn't her talent, so she aims to become a professor one day. Sharon has the same goal as the protagonist. He wants to become the champion. He's also a huge nerd. Alder is the champion of the region, but does not accept challengers and instead wanders Unova following the death of his closest Pokemon. Juniper is the professor who sends you on your journey, and there's not much else to say about her other than the fact that she can get it. Finally, there's Ghetsis. He's the second in command of Team Plasma and the one who adopted N at a young age. We're about to get to him now. After choosing your starter and beginning your journey, your protagonist comes across Ghetsis giving a speech on the liberation of Pokemon from trainers. Ghetsis believes Pokemon are slaves to humans and are made to hurt each other for our entertainment. Pretty bold move by Game Freak by addressing this, to be honest. After Team Plasma leaves, the protagonist bumps into N. N notices they're a Pokemon trainer and approaches them. He reveals that he can talk to Pokemon and says he hates Pokemon battles because trainers are putting his friends through pain. He then challenges the protag to a battle, which is a weird 180 to be honest, in order to hear their Pokemon's voices during battle. After defeating N, he's shocked to hear that the protagonist's Pokemon seem to enjoy battling with them rather than crying in pain. Following this, he leaves in all his edgy boy glory, leaving you to wonder who the hell he actually is. After defeating the second gym leader and fighting Team Plasma again, N shows up and challenges you once more. Once you beat him, he tells you the story of the two legendary Pokemon of Unova. I'll shorten it down because it'll make the plot section of this video much longer than it's already going to be. Long ago, there was one powerful Pokemon of Unova. This Pokemon was commanded by two princes. At some point, the two princes fell out over the future of Unova, one believing in following the truth and the other wanting to follow ideals. The two fought, and the legendary wanted to be with both, so it split into two different Pokemon, Zekrom, following the Prince of Truth, and Reshiram following the Prince of Ideals. The conflict between the two Pokemon destroyed most of Unova, and eventually, the two princes saw what they had done, and made up, and used their Pokemon to help rebuild Unova. That's quite a bit to take in maybe, but I'm going to keep on trucking through the story. N aligns with the side of Ideals in Pokemon White, meaning he'll summon Reshiram. In Black, he aligns with Truth, meaning he summons Zekrom. No matter which game, he plans to use a legendary to scare the people of Unova into releasing their Pokemon. The protagonist will align with the opposite of whatever N says, and the dialogue is tweaked a little between the two games to support N's moral. Now we can skip forward a bunch. Only detail I should say is that N revealed himself to be the king of Team Plasma, which gives context to the opening cutscene. Cool. Your next confrontation with N is atop Dragon Spiral Tower, which is actually very cool to climb up. N gives another speech about truth or ideals, and summons the legendary Pokemon, either Zekrom or Reshiram. Throughout this, Alder, the champion, is present, and N challenges him to a battle of the Unova League in order to claim his dominance over the Unova region. Before leaving, N also challenges the protagonist to a battle, instructing them to summon the other legendary Pokemon, certain that it will deem them a worthy trainer strong in their morals. N wants to crush the morals of the other legendary to eliminate any obstacles. Remember I mentioned Ghetsis? Well, you meet him a few times before, but I didn't feel the need to talk about those occasions. He is worried by N's recklessness in challenging you, as it puts Team Plasma's plan at risk. Ghetsis tries to use Team Plasma to stop you from finding the Darkstone or the Lightstone, which is the legendary's dormant form. Once you get the Darkstone, you make your way to the Unova League and challenge the Elite Four. Following this, you run up the stairs to catch the tail end of N versus Alder. With the power of the legendary, N emerges victorious and becomes the champion of Unova. N turns to you and is like, "Aight, let's take this outside." Suddenly, The ground starts to rumble, and a huge castle emerges from the ground behind the league. This is honestly a huge what the hell moment for me. Turns out all the Pokemon Team Plasma had taken were used to construct this hidden castle, presumably to rule Unova from once the plan was completed. It's not like they built this quickly, by the way. N's childhood bedroom is located in the palace, so this was a long-term project. The Protag climbs the castle and meets N for a climactic duel. N sends out his legendary Pokemon in a pretty sick cutscene for DS hardware. The presence of the other legendary triggers the stone in your bag, and the legendary you chose is awakened, having chosen you as a champion of its morals. You catch the legendary, and then fight and defeat N once and for all. N is stunned into silence, and that's when Ghetsis enters. Ghetsis reprimands N for his loss, and then betrays him. Turns out Ghetsis was using N in order to gain control over the legendary. Ghetsis did not care about the liberation of Pokemon. He just wanted to rule Unova, N was simply his stepping stone to that position. Now, the only thing left in Ghetsis' way is the protagonist, so he attacks. Just a side note, this fight is genuinely really hard. I managed to clutch through in the first try, but I did not expect him to be as difficult as he was. When Ghetsis finally falls, Alder comes and takes him away. Now it's the Protag and N. Since he was defeated and learned his father figure only raised him to use him, N reevaluates his view in the world. He realizes that truth and ideals must coincide with one another. Truth must be used as a foundation to strive forward with ideals. N gives an emotional farewell to the Protag with some nice as hell music. He departs with the legendary Pokemon to explore Unova and broaden his horizons. This scene in particular is my favorite because of how well the emotions are balanced. I also like how they did this hand-drawn close-up. I wish other games in the series actually did this. I'm aware that may have been a lot of video dedicated to the plot, but I really like Black and White's story. Its conflict between truth and ideals is surprisingly in-depth for Pokemon. It's quite thought-provoking to consider the protagonist's viewpoints and N's viewpoints. You're able to choose for yourself who you align with. It's also surprising to see Game Freak address the slave-like relationship between humans and Pokemon. Of course, they'll always write it off as Pokemon loving fighting with trainers as it unlocks their true potential, but I still appreciate the effort. Pokemon Black and Pokemon White are testaments to what Pokemon actually is. These games in particular have a lot of passion poured into the plot, region, and Pokemon. I'm not saying there's not passion put into other entries, but Black and White just completely drains it all out. I love Pokemon, and I loved playing these games, but they also make me a bit sad. No Pokemon game after Gen 5 has come close to touching the feel of Black and White. I still enjoy the newer games, but they lack the character or the polish Black and White has, and sometimes I wonder if they ever will. Pokemon Black and Pokemon White are the best Pokemon games, and are the embodiment of why fans love Pokemon.